All right, so this week is part 2 of 3 of our talk about healing. And last week we talked about spiritual healing, and just to give that a little review, spiritual healing is healing from our idea that we are separate from our Creator and separate from each other. So a lot of that comes through teaching or through feelings of unworthiness and stuff like that. Healing from a self-contained life with God out there. So whatever we do, we kind of live in our world. What I do doesn't affect you. What you do doesn't affect me. But what each one of us does individually affects the whole of humanity, because we are all part of the same source. So it absolutely makes a difference. Our perceptions of the divine and what a spiritual life is, we need healing from. Because we oftentimes think that, we're here and there's a few people that have a calling and the rest of us just kind of go along. But each one of us is absolutely here on purpose, and we are spirit beings, and so we are gradually coming back into our awareness that we are spiritual beings. So any idea we have of what a spiritual life is, if it's it has to look like this or it has to look like that, is really doesn't have to look like anything. You have to be on a path and growing, and that's what it looks like for you. So we've learned that we need to set goals for our spiritual growth, and that every one of us is on a sacred journey. We learn from others, but we follow our path. We follow our path. And a lot of time, I think we look at people and we say, well, that's the ultimate, so I want to be like that. And we follow their path. But each one of us is you could look at each one of our lives at some point and say that's the ultimate, because it's going to be different for each one of us. Some of us are going to be in the forefront, just naturally we would be in our job anyway, and some of us are going to be going along. We get what's suited to us along our way, but we have to get in there and grow and learn, and hopefully my internet connection hangs in there. I'll talk faster. So this week, we're going to talk about the mind, the mental, and emotional, because there's the 3 parts: the spiritual, the mind, and the body. So next week is the body, healing in the body. So who we are, just to get a reminder again, who we are is we are an awareness of being, we're a spiritual being, and we're sacred souls. So we are before we're here in this body. We are. So I was before I was Audrey. I'm eternal. So in my awareness of being, in my eternal state, I'm not troubled. I'm neutral. I'm not sick. I don't have fear. I'm not affected by the ego. I'm above it all. I'm in connection with eternity. All the other stuff is the mind, mental, emotional. All the other stuff, all the gunk, all the stuff that is running around in our mind is there. It's what we think, what fills our head, and it's how we think and the lens that we look at life through. So the stuff that we think about is only real to us individually. It only exists because we give it energy. It's our perception. It's our human experience made up of perceptions, concepts, belief, and education. So, me and you talking about the same thing are going to have a different concept, belief, or idea. There's no wrong and right. It's just different based on the soil we grew up in. So we need to heal the separateness created by our limited mental capacity and become one in our awareness of being. So the spirit begins to flow through, taking the knowledge, the concepts of the mind, and infusing them with spiritual energy and inspiration for ourselves to move forward. So thoughts are a big deal. So what we hold on to or keep is individual to each one of us. You know, we only remember specific things, and most of our moments pass on by or through us, right? Because there's a million moments in our lifetime, and we only choose to collect and hold on to certain ones. So thoughts, like we've talked about before, create emotions and energy. And energy turns into our life experience here. So we have experiences that we classify as good or bad, and we choose our perceptions about who we are and our place in the world, and what we can become, etc., out of those experiences. So it looks like this. So we have an experience. We're going to look at both sides. A joyful, fun day hiking with friends, let's say. And we really enjoyed ourselves. We really feel good about it in so many ways. It's such a great experience. And when we have a chance to do it again, we jump on it, right? It's enhancing our life, our sense of who we are. When we remember the day, we enjoy the good feelings and the good energy again. So if you're analyzing the day and how you fit in, that's not what I'm talking about. To look at it, to say, wow, that was fantastic, that brings you life repetitively. And every time you look at it, it brings you life and renews your life energy. If we have a hard experience, a breakup, the death of someone that we love, a struggle or event at work, you know, something that is a hard event, it becomes branded into our emotions, and we remember the details with low level emotion, pain, embarrassment, heaviness, judgment. And we resist that event and the memory of it. And as a result, we leave a piece of our energy there with that snapshot in space. And it will become a snapshot or a short film that we can replay and frozen out there in the ethers. And we will do it often and repeat it. And if we don't process through the stuff, it creates more of the same stuff, because it's energy, right? And so we give up a lot of energy to keep the snapshots and the short films out in space, and we have very little energy left over for the now. So whatever we try to do, whatever we try to create and have, has to maneuver around the blocks in order to come into being. So the snapshot or the short film, it will appear when a similar event, smell, scene, taste presents itself. And the old emotion is triggered by the current scene, smell, taste, but we often react from the picture or film experience. So we're not even reacting at a present time. So it takes a lot of energy to hold these things there in space, and because we're supposed to let them go. We're supposed to live here and have life move through us and out. And when we find ourselves with a lot of these, it kind of looks like this. So we have our little cartoon. So here's our human with all the energy intact, a happy human. And then here's the same happy human with good memories and a snapshot and a short film. And the energy is now being expended because this gives energy, this pulls it out. And then we have our little human as time goes by. And there's a lot of snapshots and short films, and they're kind of crowding out the good energy, and a lot of energy is being expended. And you see this little human is now being squeezed. Less energy for living. And then our little human gets to a place where the energy's weak, the energy field is jaggedy, and you actually, it's true because they film people now, and it is jaggedy, and the person will have anxiety, anger, fear, sometimes be anxious. They'll oftentimes become sick physically because the energy is expended out of their energy field, keeping all of this negative things frozen in time and space. So when we hold on to these things, they set the perceptions and self-concepts we have as we go through life, and it has an impact on our goals and motives and our life experience. And this is why we need to heal from these. So when a person, that's oftentimes a person when they get down to the jaggedy edge and they're run down, they're sick, their life is stuck and unable to move forward, they're experiencing some form of sickness or disease, or a person feels life is not as full as they thought, and they don't know why. Oftentimes at this point, people will start seeking something from a spiritual guide, an energy light worker, energy worker, inner clarity coach, muse, etc. And this points a person, these individuals can point a person back to the source of the problem, right? But you still have to do the work. But we can point ourselves back. We don't have to get to that point. But it is really fascinating that through all of the studies and cultures and religions and practices, certain bodily conditions that disease that people come down with typically be in certain parts of the body and are connected with dark emotions that are in the energy field. And it's proven, there's certain types of cancer that are connected with certain types of emotional distress, feelings of lack of self-worth, a lack of sense of a place in the world. The teaching that we just went through, the woman is a medical intuitive that wrote part of that, and she can see where the sickness, the problem in the person comes from, and can point back to the event where it started. So it is super important that we look at the photos, the snapshots and the pictures that what are we holding on to? And sometimes, if it's trauma gets frozen, but we're past it now, usually way past it. And we're still not dealing. We're just tucking it away, or we're dealing with it mentally, putting it in a mental box and maneuvering ourselves around it. But we have to go back and heal our energy and pull back what we're expending on stuff that is not real anymore. I'm not saying that your experience wasn't real to you, but it's today. It's today. And we need to move through so that we have the energy full on going forward. So, how do we do that? So we go back and we reclaim the energy from space, and stopping the hemorrhaging of energy that's flowing out of us. So when we experience a trigger, a low level emotion, for example, in a neutral situation, we might go, "What's that?" Or "Where's that coming from?" Right? Be stepping back from it. Questions to ask: How old am I right now? How old am I inside? Oftentimes, you'll be having a reaction, and I've asked people, "How old do you feel right now?" And they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm like 10 or 15 or 30, right? So that's a good clue. Like, how old do I feel right now? And is what I'm feeling appropriate for this moment, right? Because sometimes, we've all been with people where, like, holy God, they're reacting to something and it has nothing to do with what's happening right now, right? So is what I'm feeling appropriate? And am I reacting or overreacting to what's happening in my life right now? And it can be super simple. You send a text to, your boyfriend and they don't respond back. And you're like, oh my God, they're cheating. Like, that has nothing to do with anything except you, right? So simple stuff. It doesn't have to be big a drama. So am I taking this personally, and why? And then we ask Spirit, give me clarity to see things clearly and non-dually, like with neutrality, to see things from a neutral stance, from my place of awareness. I want to observe this scene from up here and understand or see it differently. I need a new perspective on yesterday because now I'm a grown-up, or now I'm 15 years farther down the road, and I can look at that objectively and say, oh, my perspective, I need a perspective shift. Or look at it like you're not looking at you, like you're looking at a story of someone else. And what would you say to them? Or how would you think they should react? Like, start to really get a good handle on what is happening inside of you and how much energy is flowing out. And then we want to let these events move through and out like they were intended to do. But now we've trapped events there, and we need to let them go. So we have to release them, understand them, be like, oh my gosh, is so lame-o that I even expended energy on that in the first place, right? Especially because we're getting a broader and broader picture of our beautiful divine soul and our unique, amazing path. And a lot of this stuff, shrapnel out there, is just concepts or our feeling of not fitting in, or feeling that things happened to us personally when they actually didn't. People just crash through life like a bull in a china shop sometimes, and we're part of that crash. It's not personal, so we have to get to where we're viewing life through the portal of our soul, and that's our awareness of being. That's our neutral divine self that is loved, knows it's loved, and knows it's complete. Because we are complete in our soul. We're complete in there. We're bringing this awareness out of our mind all of our feelings of being unwhole, incomplete, unworthy, all of that out. That's in our mind. We're pulling ourselves out of our mind and bringing ourselves back into where we're living from our soul and from our place of awareness in which we are we're completely loved. And we're can look at these events from a safe place of neutrality. So that's, I kind of rushed through because I kept getting a warning about the internet fading in and out. So if you have any comments or questions, or we could chat about it, that'd be super.
A few years ago, you had mentioned that to me. I don't know if you remember it, but a friend had left a note on my car and I freaked out about it because it was at work. Do you remember that issue?
Yes, I do.
And you're like, wait a second, Don, does it make sense to you? Like, why are you freaking out about it? And I mean, you explained it to me and it made so much sense. And it's like, wow, because I had been somebody had been tracking me before and I felt like this person was tracking me, but it was a totally different relationship. And it was like I had to pull myself out of that place of fear and oh my God, it's happening again kind of thing. But it's like an instantaneous reaction.
It's a
And
trigger.
yeah, the trigger. So it's like you taught me triggers and also because that happened and I could look at it objectively, like you were saying, like pull it out of your head and kind of look at it objectively. I learned a ton about myself that day. I've also been able to identify other triggers, which is cool because when you react emotionally to something, suddenly all of a sudden it's like this major emotion is there. I now have learned, and it's not instant, but I've learned to pull back and say, why am I acting this way? Or why am I feeling this way? What is it about the situation that is upsetting me? And it's really taught me a lot about myself. It's really cool.
Oh, it is. And then
Yeah.
it's almost, you can almost laugh and say, wow, there was a lot, a lot wound up in that.
After a while you can, but not instantly because
No,
you're
not
still, yeah,
instantly.
yeah.
And even the fun part is, I found the fun part, or the is when you start to become aware that you're having an emotion, because
Mhm.
they're not all super powerful. Like, oh my gosh, they're sometimes we have some resistance against something, and we don't even know why, or it doesn't make sense. Just as like we're like, I have some resistance about that. It can be subtle too, and then being like, oh, there's something I need to look at, because emotions are definitely a flag.
Well, it's a head thing. Yeah, it's a head thing. It's not a heart thing or
Yeah.
a soul thing. Yeah. But it's amazing because now I look at myself and say, oh, you got to work on that. Oh, you got to work on that. Got to work on that. It's it's funny, but it's like, oh, there's a lot of work to be done. But we're work in progress, right? We're all works in
For
progress.
our whole life, and once we become aware, and I find that once you pick some meat off the bone, it's like the rest falls off. You know,
Okay.
it's not like you have to process every event, but the sometimes I think it's the major impact ones. Sometimes we need to step through because there's levels that are affecting our life in every relationship going forward.
Mhm.
But sometimes the concept of, ah, that's an emotion, and then, okay, I'm going to walk it through. And then, like, we've learned the tool. So now um, a lot of the little stuff just goes. And
Right. Tool
then
can be
it's,
applied to any situation, right?
yeah, and it's like you don't need to keep relearning it. You have learned it, and
Right.
there's like some grace that sweeps. Um, and I think too, when we unhook from one a video or one snapshot, um, oftentimes they're connected, because if you have a snapshot here, every time you're having that triggered, you're probably going to take another picture. So it, right? So it kind of,
Camera
when we deal with one that's connected, then it pulls the thread on all of them.
deletes them. That's cool. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's not a, we get past the history and into the process of daily living. But now we're like, I don't want to, I have an energy drain. I don't want to have an energy drain. Why is there an energy drain? And then we learn, like, I've learned this, and, work it out however works for you. But this is like how I've learned it, or figured it out for my own life. And, each of us is going to hears from spirit differently. And, we'll have a different type of conversation. So the tools might tweak to that. This is just how I'm doing it. So, and to be really excited, because we're being shown something, because it's the right time for it to go, and we're willing to move on the path of our life. So something's being presented to us to deal with, so that we can move farther, right? Or float up, however you want to look at it. So when something comes up, we can be like, this is an opportunity to move something out. Like, I've been given this opportunity that I might not have come across until farther down the road. So it makes it like you start to realize how much spirit is involved in your moment to moment life. It's like, right, breathing your breath. We're asking a question, we're stretching, and we're getting opportunity. And, oh, let's deal with this trigger. That'll clear up your vision for so that you can see this over here, right? Like, it's so I was not aware at how much help was being provided until I started tracking it and paying attention and learning the conversation, right? And then I'm like, I'm never alone. Like, we're taught that through, teaching, we're never alone, but we have to experience that. People are bailing out on me. We have to experience it in order to own it in our own life. So,
But even looking at it as an opportunity, I mean, because most of the time I think of triggers as painful things. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah.
it doesn't have to be. I mean, it starts out that way, but if you have the mindset to look at it as an opportunity to grow and to get rid of an energy suck, that's an awesome way to look at it, because I don't think of it that way. Do you know what I mean? But it truly is. And it's really made a huge difference. So thank you.
It's like crabgrass in the garden.
Thank you. Just pull it.
You got to just keep. And it's only like a helpful thing too is to say, I am not this emotion. This is a snapshot. And that'll give you some space.
Okay.
I'm not this emotion. I've been triggered. This is just part of a snapshot. Imagine when we have, like, we're gaining so much knowledge, and the knowledge is being a snapshot for you now, right? Think of it on the opposite side. Like, there, you go through your life and you're like helping people, right? And you're not reacting because you have a knowledge snapshot, right? But it's one of the red bubbles, not the black one.
Okay, cool.
Think of it that way. Like,
Yeah, that's awesome.
every time you learn a tool, every time you learn something about yourself, spiritually. You now have a gift you can share when spirit moves you to share it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're filling up the space with something that is giving you energy instead of like we're removing all the suckers. But we're not left void. We're replacing them with, all of the beautiful photography of our life and life experience and spiritual path, and all of that is really the flip side. But we're not going to go in and remove those. We need to. That's why we're focusing on where am I right now. And if it's not in the present time, I'll take a look at that when I get home, like when I can sit down and journal. I'm just going to step back from this moment, type of a thing. So my 4 people that are left. Um, well, next week we're going to dip into the healing in the body. And we're going to find that as we heal 1 and 2, 3 will come along. Oftentimes, miraculously. But we're going to talk about the power that we have to manifest healing in our lives and provide energy for somebody else. So that's next week's message. So are we good? Good. I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna talk after next week, or maybe at the end of next week, I'm gonna talk about meditation a little bit. But I feel like you all at this point probably have developed what works for you. And I think that we should, if we want to meditate together, we can get together and really meditate. Maybe one session a month, or maybe a separate one where we come together with common energy, and we can work on creating or work on energy for humankind or stuff like that, because the meditation itself is an individual conversation that we're having with our creator. So I don't want to take it out if people are really want it at the end, but I'm gonna not do it this week, and we'll talk about it, but think about it. If you want to keep it at the end, that's super great. We'll talk about it next week. And if we want to also do something else or do something else instead, let's talk about that. I just feel like we need to talk about it. So we'll do it.
Audrey, I like it. For some reason, I see that it works for me in a collaborative, like a joined session where when everyone's energy is there, and like say my energy is so drained or so low, where I'm not able to, for whatever reason, just connect to what I need to connect to. So I feel that, I like it. I like that collaborative, like where you're able to just put together everyone's energy, even though we could be in so many different places. And it helps me sometimes, as I said, well, as you said, there's so much other energy leechers that just take so much out of you that you just kind of feel drained or like lost.
Mhm.
And you kind of come back to a point where, you know, just listening to your things, and how do you come back to that middle ground where it's that straight path? You just deviate in so many different ways, and so many other things just sidetrack you. So I like it just in a preference,
Okay,
doing it together.
okay. I appreciate that. Um, Mary Beth loves what you share.
Oh, thank you.
So we'll continue.
It's
So if you
Mhm,
don't mind if when it's short,
mhm.
we'll continue to do it at the end. If it's important enough to one, it's important to all of us. So we'll keep doing it, even if
Yeah,
it's
and I
short.
think I myself like slack off sometimes, a lot of times, and I need to, go through your videos. You do so much for us, and like, and that's just the thing that, like, if we slack off, we now that you do the videos, and those are those are so helpful, that even if we miss the time, when we're, this is going on live, we can always go back and watch it. And even that group meditation session would just, I think, might even just feel like, okay, it's together. And just the aspect of it, that it's there. If we watch it, as a community, it'll grow your liking to it. So why not do something like that and get your hours up, and even to monetization? We should all just watch it, let it play in our computers all over the house, wherever, and just build up them hours. So
And that's true. I was speaking to somebody else today about that. When we feel like there's just a lot, um, it's good to stop and build a base, like build into the foundation by reading or listening or meditation or something. But when we take in something new, um, we're strengthening our foundation. And so, and when we're feeling a little frazzled, or like this growing of stuff is a lot, then if that's a good time to step back from that part and build your base, listen to learning, stuff like that. For you, I just had this picture when you were saying you just get pulled in so many directions off your path. And so what I saw as a picture is your feet are always on the path, but the rest of you is like a rubber band man.
yeah.
So you're always on the path, but the rest of you is you're going in different directions, and you think you're off the path, but you're not. Your feet are firmly planted. It's just learning to uh,
Hone
pull,
it in. Right? Yeah.
ground down and pull into the center. And so, like, your head will be over here and your body will be over here, bringing it back into the center. But listening to teaching, getting concepts down is definitely going to give you a grounded feeling for sure. So we're going to do a meditation in honor of that.
Yay.
So
Just a quick comment, Mohammed. I love all the pictures on the wall by your
Oh,
computer.
it's just the kiddos. They just
I love it. It's
I
awesome.
share a room with them with my office. So
That's cool. I just love it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.